Okay.
Okay, well, good morning, everyone. My name is James Henderson, and I'm the training manager for SoftPlan. And with us today for our Friday Fundamental is David Wilson. To say that he is our Florida sales rep would be underselling what he does, so I will leave it to him to kind of explain and talk a little bit about his credentials and what he does. And the concept of today's class of designing with SoftPlan to meet Florida design codes is to basically parallel if you were drawing anywhere in the world that is not just using standard 2x6 and 2x4 stick frame construction. So you could be in Florida, you could be in Arizona, but you could also be in the Caribbean somewhere doing block construction down there.
Yep.
David is going to take us through how to basically construct your SoftPlan to make you more efficient. The class will run for about 60 minutes. During these Friday fundamentals, if you participated in them before with us, we don't open the microphones up for questions. We ask basically to just allow the instructor to take you through everything that he has, and trust me, the 60 minutes will go quickly on him. And I will be monitoring the chat and trying to answer your questions over there. If you have any questions above and beyond the class afterwards, we'll give you an email address where you can send those questions to, and we will do our best to turn them around. So without any further ado, I'll turn it over to David.
Thank you, Jim. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this Friday Fundamentals class on designing and building in a Florida building code environment. I'm going to go through some basic fundamental things here rather quickly. The process that we're going to be talking about in terms of using the tools that are supplied with the program aren't going to change in terms of the methodology, but what is going to change perhaps is going to be the materials we actually build with. So what I'm going to attempt to do here is to illustrate the speed and the power of this program and to make clear that can be adapted and used in any building environment almost anywhere you wish. The idea behind SoftPlan, it's a BIM, B-I-M system, Building Information Modeling System. And the idea behind building information modeling is that you can work in any aspect of the design process, be it in plan view, be it in elevation, be it in cross-section, be it in 3D, and you can control all of the others. So for example, if I'm drawing something in plan view and I place a window or a door in a particular location and I want to see what it looks like, I might jump out to an elevation and decide to move it in the elevation. And in so doing, it automatically moves it in all the others, including the 3D model. It moves it in plan and it moves it in section. And it may even impact the bill of materials takeoff report. That's the concept behind BIM. It's brief. There's lots of stuff you can find about BIM on the web, and you can go search it and check it out. But be assured that SoftPlan is a BIM system, and it works the way it should, and it's state of the art in terms of its ease of use and in terms of its operation. What you're looking at now on my screen is slightly different perhaps than yours. I don't use the ribbon menus. I'm an old SoftPlan user. I've been around for 30 years with these guys. And in the process, I grew up with pull-down menus, and that's my preferred methodology. It's faster, but I'm not going to go so fast that you don't know and that you don't see what's happening. So this is our start screen, and I'm online, obviously. And on the right-hand side, you're seeing all of the information that SoftPlan provides once you are online. And on the left-hand side is your project management system, whether we're going to be opening an existing project perhaps or creating a new project, which I am going to do. And then before I wrap this up, I'm going to show you how SoftPlan can be used as a concept presentation document so that you can close a job and land the job before you necessarily have to draw the construction documents. The idea behind this is letting and allowing the customer to envision the real speed and capability and what the final outcome is intended to look like. So with all of that, let me just jump in and create a new project. And in the process, this is your project creation screen, and this is going to be called the project name. It's already going to put it in a specific location. It's going to give it a new folder for that location. It's suggesting that I call it and start with the main floor. That's a great suggestion. I would use it on a regular basis. I don't necessarily always turn on the 3D model and the SoftList Bill of Materials tab. In fact, I have a tendency to turn them off. It's just a habit I've gotten into, because as on complex designs, if you have a computer that isn't necessarily the fastest in the world, as you begin to make this model bigger and bigger, the 3D model wants to constantly refresh, and the SoftList tab wants to constantly refresh in the background. But on some computers, that can slow down the process, especially as the project gets bigger. I ask for the 3D model when I want it. I ask for the SoftList Bill of Materials takeoff report when I want it. On the left and right-hand side of that tab, you're also going to see there's client information if you're dealing on a retail basis. And on the right-hand side of the screen, you're looking at it if you're a build company or a build-in company, and you're controlling all of it in-house. You want to know the model number, the elevation name, the development name, lot number, block number, and so on. And then down below are notes to self. And finally, over here on the bottom left is automatically copied to the SoftPlan Plus cloud. I'll talk about that a little bit later. You should get in the habit of using that. It's inexpensive, it's free, and it actually protects your work in case something goes fluey with your computer and you can withdraw it. You can also share your work with other users who are using SoftPlan if you allow them the privilege of sharing your work. So I'm just going to call this thing Friday Fundamentals, and I can't remember how to spell fundamentals, so I'm just going to make the spelling error and jump in. Okay, and then what I'm going to say at this point is okay, and now we're in our start screen. We're in a drawing screen right now. Approximately my screen is zoomed into approximately about 120 feet across and maybe 75 or 80 feet tall up and down. And over here on the left-hand side is what's called your navigation tab or navigation toolbar. You should be using this on a regular basis. This speeds up your design process and it speeds up your ability to keep track of what your project is doing. You'll see that there is a model name. That's the main floor. You'll see that it's highlighted here. It means it's in our modeling system under assemble floors right there. So assembling floors using the main floor is the same thing that this is telling you. And as we add floors to this project, you can simply take and drag and drop it into the model. Show you that later. Automatic elevation creation. When you create those elevations, you can save them as standalone drawings. Those names will appear here. Same with cross sections, same with interior views. Now we're in presentation views. We'll talk about that later as well. Creating site plans, detailed drawings, project sets, 3D modeling views, plan sets, SoftList, all of those things we'll try to get to. We won't get to all of it, but we'll try to get the most of it. And we're going to jump in. Now, because we build in Florida, and Florida is a monster state to try to satisfy all of the rules and regulations and fickle inspectors and building departments and all the rest, we get that. So what we've tried to do for our Florida customers is this. When someone buys a program from SoftPlan who lives in the Florida market, my job is to go out and make that program Florida code ready to go. In other words, you are not going to be responsible for having to figure out how to make the program run so that it works in a Florida environment. We've done a lot of work on this over the last 10 or 12 years, and it's been certified by all the building departments. It's been recognized by almost all of the lumberyard suppliers and building material suppliers, and it's recognized by all of the engineers in the state of Florida that use it. So I'm going to start off with something really simple. I'm going to go into the file system, and I'm going to pull down to the system options, and I'm going to activate those system options, and I'm going to jump over here real quick and show you some of the things that make this unique in a Florida environment. So as we're looking at this, we'll scroll down, and you're going to see things that you may or may not even know existed, but this is key right here, defining a wall. And I'm going to click on edit, and the first thing you're going to see is my wall list, and it's not going to look like anything that came out of the SoftPlan box. So I start off with 8-inch block, that's bare block. I start off then next to 8-inch block stucco with no drywall. You might use that in a garage where it's painted on the inside, but it's stucco on the outside. And then living space walls, we call them, 8-inch block with stucco, with insulation, with furring strips, with drywall. Then 8-inch block with stucco on two sides. And as I click on these, you can see the materials that make them up. And if I click on this one, you can see it's stucco on the outside, then a block A, block B, for those of you that build in Florida, that's your knockout block or your V block. Then you have rigid insulation, then you have furring strips, and then you have drywall. And then we get down into the stem wall for stem wall systems, and we have a concrete block and block A. Block A is what it's made out of. Concrete block is the chair block that sits on top. Chair blocks are where it holds slabs. We'll talk about that later. Then you have the same thing with parging. If you're going to put these on rolling terrains or walkout basements against a hillside, you're going to need some parging on that stem wall if you're using it. And then you have an 8-inch block stem wall with a brick face. If you're using 2x something and brick, we want those brick surfaces to line up in a smooth, seamless function, and that's what that's for. Then we jump down into what we call the 2x4 standard. You're going to see it in your system, what we call out of the box as partition 3.5. But as a builder, I'm a licensed contractor in the state of Florida. I'm a licensed engineer in the state of Florida, and I'm also a HERS rater. But we go with 2x4, 2x6, 2x8. Then we have those same things as bearing materials. Then we get down into the exterior walls, 2x4 and stucco, siding, hardy plank siding, here's 2x6, and you're looking at the profiles here in vertical view and what it looks like in plan view. Here it is with hardy siding, here it is with stone man-made, here it is with brick, so you can see the brick veneer. Then we get down into brick with 2x6, and then we're going to get down into stone natural, so you can see it's much thicker. Then we're looking at brick and hardy plank with a wainscoting here. Then we're going to go down into the pressure treated base plate walls. These are the repeats of the above walls. However, what's different is they have a pressure treated base plate. Why does that matter? It only matters if you're doing an estimated bill of materials takeoff report. That's why it matters. If you're building with 2x4 walls on a first floor environment where you're using a monolithic slab as your flooring system, then you are required by code to have a pressure treated base plate 2 by whatever wall, 2x4, 2x6, 2x8, whatever. So that pressure treated wall sits there. So in general, if you're doing a stick frame construction system on a monolithic slab in Florida, which is relatively rare, but if you are, you should be using pressure treated base plate walls. Then we're going to jump down into existing walls, and these existing walls are repeats of the walls above, except when you click on them, you're going to see that there is, in this case, SoftList, the Bill of Materials Takeoff Report, is not checked. And what that means is these walls have a tone to them, and they have a hatch pattern to them, excuse me, so that when you draw with these, they will appear in plan view. This is especially helpful for remodelers when they want to see the existing floor plan, but they don't want that floor plan to be included in the bill of materials. There's other uses for that, but that's basically what it's for. Then we get down into miscellaneous wall types, concrete, 8 and 10 inches thick, some with a brick face, some log walls. Believe it or not, some very large log wall companies are in Florida. BK Cypress Log Homes is one of the biggest, and they have their own cypress log forest that they use, and cypress is relatively impervious to termites. That's why they're so big. And then you have SIPs, structural insulated panels. You have screened rooms for those of you that live in Florida. We have swimming pools, but you can't use them in the summertime unless you're going to be gobbled up by mosquitoes, so we put pool cages around them, and that's what this is for. And then you have a glass shower wall, a party wall if you're doing multifamily. And then we get down into steel studs, some with pressure treated plates, some without. And these are used for light commercial build outs, warehouse build outs, or whatever. And then at the very bottom, you have ICF, insulated concrete forms, 6 and 8 inches thick. And those are used up north a lot for foundation work, but down in Florida, they're used because of their tremendous R values. And some of those can go as high as R60. So you're talking about some real incredible insulating values and energy savers on those. The other thing I want to check now is I want to show you is defining beams. We've added three new beams, 8x8 concrete, 8x16 concrete, and 8x24. We may or may not have time to get into that, but I just wanted to show you. So this is just a couple of examples that make it clear how things are different in the state of Florida. Now, what I'm going to get into now is actually saying, okay, and I'm going to start a design process. So I always start with the main floor. That's why it's here. And I'm going to do, in this case, I'm going to do a stem wall foundation. Actually, I'm not. I'm going to do we're not going to have time. I'm going to do a main floor, and I'm going to do a monolithic slab. And then on top of that, I'm going to put a stick frame construction on the second floor. So the base bottom floor is going to be concrete block, 9 feet 4 inches tall. It's done at 9'4" because of the block size increments. And then we'll put a web floor truss between the floors. We'll put a 2x4 wall on the second floor with stucco as well. And then we'll pop a quick roof on it, and then we'll go from there. And then I'll model it for you in section, elevation, 3D modeling, and then we'll run a quick bill of materials. So everything starts with the draw command. Here's your pull down on draw. I start with walls. When I click on walls, it pops my wall library, which you just saw. Let me drag it out so you can see it. We'll scroll up, and we're going to start off with 8-inch block stucco, insulation, furring strips, and drywall. And this is the cross section of that. Outside is always to the left. I'm not showing any of the stucco or the parging, but I am showing the gap for the insulation and the furring strips and the drywall in this space here. You can change that visibility factor in your wall definition. This is the one that most builders in Florida prefer. That's how we set them up. So we're ready to go. The other thing I want you to be aware of is that up here, it's telling you you're drawing walls, and it's telling you the kind of wall that you're drawing over on the side. And then across here, of course, are your shortcut keys. And for those of you who are just starting out that are using SoftPlan in maybe the first month or two, my advice, and take it for what it's worth, is to not rely on the shortcut keys. You will never learn the real power of this program if you hover on shortcut keys and expect it to do what you want it to do. The power of this program is in the master commands. For example, This shortcut key right here, this setup on this shortcut says edit item. It's the only edit function listed on this toolbar. But if you click on edit as the master command, all of this stuff is missing. And this is where the power is. So we're going to start off with, in this case, we're drawing walls. It's telling me right there. And I click with my mouse and I start to drag out, and you can see a ghost of the wall appearing, but you can also see up here in feet and inches how long it is. Excuse me. And you can also see up here the angle that I'm drawing it at. And that's 0, 90, 180, 270. So I'm going to click and start it again, and we'll drag out. And I'm just going to drag it out, I don't know, probably about 45, 50 feet. And for you AutoCAD users that have come into SoftPlan, I've just probably blew your mind because I said about. That drives most AutoCAD users nuts. It drove me nuts when I made the switch 25 years ago, but that's neither here nor there. So I'm going to go out to about 50 feet or so. I'm modeling this, and I'm going to say that's where it stops. And you'll notice no wall has showed up yet, but as I move my mouse up and down, you're seeing a hot surface appear. And what it's waiting for me to do is to tell it where's outside. So the outside or the exterior surface of that wall is right there. So I click it, and as soon as I do, the wall appears and the cursor jumps to the end. Now no clicking, simply pull to the new position. And I'm kind of keeping an eye on it up there. I'm going to go about 30 feet. And now you notice that a dimension showed up. Then I'm going to drag, click, drag, click, drag, click, drag, click, drag, click, close it. You'll notice that I was very sloppy on this close, and you got a little bit of a blow by here. AutoCAD users, you'll like this. This is a tool called Fill It. Click it, touch it here, fill it here. Everything is cool. The dimensions comes back to the 13.2 it should have been. One last word on dimensions. We are dimensioning to the outermost face of the outermost load-bearing material, outside face of the block. Not brick, not stucco, not siding. Structural. That's what we're doing. So I'm going to zoom it up so you can see it. I'm going to enlarge these dimension numbers with a Control Q shortcut. And now you can clearly see what those numbers are. And with that information in hand, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to change the dimensions on this thing to make it look like what I wanted in the first place. So this is block construction. The overall dimension, we're going to start on the outside and go migrate in. If you're doing block work, this is just a quick tip, so I'm going to ramble as I go here. I'm going to go to edit, edit item, click on that dimension number, and you'll see it all here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in 64 feet 8 inches. If you have a numeric key cluster, that's 64 minus 8 plus. Minus key is feet, plus key is inches, and then at that point, you have to make a decision. These arrows are not asking you which way. They're asking you which end of the illuminated dimension chain do you want that 64 feet 8 inches to take effect. And I'm going to split the difference. I'm going to say move that wall and that wall. That's where those extension lines are anchored. And give me my 64.8, which it does. Then I'm going to tell this to be 12 feet. Now what I have to do is move this wall. So that's the end that I want affected. That leaves 52.8. Then I'm going to come down the side, and I'm going to make that an even 50 feet, and I'm going to just move the bottom wall. That's 29.8. I'm going to make it 30. I'm making these numbers up. That leaves me 20. I don't have to do the math. It's done for me. I'll slide across. I'm going to make this a little bit more. I'm going to make this 18 feet and push that wall. That leaves me 46.8. 31 feet is not a good block dimension, and here's why I say that. If you're dealing with concrete block, if your feet dimensions are even, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, so on, the following inch dimension should either be 0 or 8. If your foot dimension is odd, like it is in this case, the following inch dimension should be 4. If you can do that, you will eliminate a tremendous amount of block labor because those are the increments of the block sizes. To illustrate that, I'm going to make that 31.0, 31 feet 4 inches, and I'm going to move it up. And that leaves me block dimensioning 18.8 automatically. You'll see that I got a little bit of blow by here on this extension line. And you'll also see over here that maybe some of these are not quite perfect. This one's broken. I call it broken. That's what this tool right here is for. It's called cleanup. The shortcut is Control C. I just click that and everything goes back to AIA standards. Tap Z and I'm where I should be. That's what my finished footprint is going to look like. Now, I may decide to change this a little bit later, but at the moment I'm saying that's probably where I want to be with this. So I'm going to leave it that way. But then the client has come back to me and said, well, this is going to be a lost gap back in here. So really I want to close this up. I want to use all of this space as much as I can. So this is something that most users aren't aware of as well. I can fill it fill it. This wall, click, to this wall, click, and it closes up. And then I can eliminate, using block arrays, I can eliminate what I don't need, and then just now go to my dimension command and say auto dimension this again. It says, are you sure? And I'm absolutely sure. And then now we're back where we were before, and everything is clean. That's how quick that goes, and we've changed the entire footprint. So this is going to be my main footprint for my first floor. Before I go any farther, what I generally do is, at this point, I make a decision about what kind of foundation system I'm going to be using under this before I even add windows and doors. And I've decided before we started this project that I was going to make this a monolithic slab. So what I want to do now at this point, I'm going to have to move my controls here because I can't see. Put that back. Sorry about that. Hold on, guys. All right. I'm trying to change modes. My online meeting has covered this. How am I going to get to this? How am I going to get to this? It's hidden. I'm pulling these down so I can see them. Menu bar. I hear somebody chatting back there. Well, there we go. I'm going to change the mode on this from drawing mode to floor system mode. I'll put this back and collapse it here. Maybe that'll do less blocking. It's not going to. So I'm in floor system mode. And what I want to do now is I go back into my draw command, if I can find it. These are the fun things when you're doing live demos and you can manage to mess things up dramatically. So I'm going to go to draw, and I'm going to say, okay, before you draw anything in any different mode, run the system options and make sure they're accurate before you start. Saves a lot of editing time. So I'm going to go into the draw function under system options for floor systems, and I'm looking at this, and I want this to be a structural slab. In SoftPlan terminology, a structural slab is in fact a monolithic slab. That's what I want, a monolithic slab. And it's telling me it's going to be 4 inches thick. It's telling me there's no rigid insulation underneath the concrete of the main part of the slab, and there shouldn't be. It's telling me that the footing thickness, that would be the depth, is 16 inches deep, and at the width at the bottom of it's 18 inches. By the way, very important, Florida users, this footing thickness is measured from the bottom of the slab to the bottom of the footing. We have a tendency to shortcut this. When we look at a monolithic slab, we'll say it's got a 16-inch footing, but we're measuring it from the top of the slab. No, that's not how SoftPlan does it. Footings are footings, slabs are slabs. So this is going to be 16 inches. And if you're building in Florida, then you might say, well, that's got a 20-inch footing system. Fair enough. So I'm going to say okay to that. And then what I want to do now is I just want to go to draw, and I want to add a slab, and I want to do it automatically. Auto trace, click, done. I've just added a 4-inch slab, and I've added all of the monolithic footings. It's already finished. So the next thing I want to do at this particular time is what I may do in some cases like this is I may model this to be absolutely certain that it's there. So what I'll do is I will go into my modeling command and I'll ask for a quick 3D. Quick 3D lets me park my mouse in a specific location and drag to where I want to see. So I click it, and I'm asking for a textured image, and SoftPlan is going to pull up this image for us right now. And there is my automatic horizon, my beautiful cloud cover here in Florida, and I see my walls with my stucco, and I see the exposed area of that 4-inch thick slab. And if you want proof, there's the monolithic footings. A better way probably would be to go into the to go back into this and do my my setup options and sorry guys, where am I? Oops. Sorry, I was in the right place in the first place. And then turn off this automatic horizon. Now I can see the whole thing. And as long as I'm here, you can go into your mode options, and let's just make this as clean as possible and just say, okay, I'm going to use a white background. It just makes life easy. Okay, so here's my slab looking down. Here's my slab looking underneath. Everything is ready to go, and then I'm ready to go on to the next step. So my main floor plan now, in fact, does have a monolithic slab. So now I'm going to try to move these controls again. There we are. That's better. Then I'm going to go back into my drawing mode, and we're ready to go. And we have a footprint that has, in this particular case, a monolithic slab underneath. Now, quickly, I'm going to add some openings. Nothing fast, just real quick. So we're going to go to Draw, and we're going to go into Openings. You see what I'm doing here? And then we're going to pick the class of opening. I'm looking for windows. And one of the things we do for our Florida users is we provide them with single hung Florida type windows. So I'll open this out. There's masonry windows and there's stick frame windows. We'll go to masonry, and we're going to use, in this case, I'll use Better Built, but I've also got PGT, I've got MI, I've got most of the major window manufacturers here with their rough openings and with their finished openings. We're going to go with Better Built. I'm going to scoot down here, and I'm just going to grab maybe an SH25 like that and say okay. And I just have a tendency to go around and pop them in, and I'm just doing this real quick, and you can see how they're automatically dimensioning for me. I might put, now I'm going to skip that. I'm going to put a couple windows here. This is going to be the front of our building, so I may put some doubles up there. So I'm just going to go to draw openings yet again. You can leave the libraries open, by the way, if you're not aware of that. And you might want to come down and grab a double mulled SH25 right there. And see, this is called hot cold. That menu is now hot. Select. When I slide off, it's cold. And I can say, okay, I want a double there and I want a double there. Then I'll go back up and I might say, okay, get me into exterior doors. And I'm going to go into Colonial. And I'll just grab a 36 Colonial C1. There's the preview. Let me drag it out so you can see it. And here's the B1. Here's the A1. I'll go with that. And I'm going to take you in close so you can see what I'm doing. The new system now in SoftPlan 2020 will preview where that door will swing. You can, so I'm just hovering here. I haven't clicked yet. Or I can swing it in or swing it out. And if I move past the midpoint, it'll actually reverse the hinge position automatically. You can change it after the fact if you want to, but I'm just going to pop it in here like this and say close enough. Then I hit my Z key and I zoom back out. Okay, so now that these windows are placed and everything is in place, I want to put a slider in here. So I'm going to go to draw openings yet again. I'm going to go to patio. I'm just going to grab something that's quite large. Maybe that's a 9680. That's really too big. I'll keep it though, and I want to show you something else you can do. So here's a 9680. I'm going to zoom in tight so you can see it. And then once that's in, I would rather have that be a triple slider. Okay, so I'm going to edit this. Watch now. I'm going to edit this sliding door, and I'm going to turn off its existing product code. And then I'm going to go to display, and I'm going to tell it that it has 3 operating sections, not 2. There's a triple slider. Now you have the choice of doing one of 2 things, using it the way it sits, or you could add it back into the library and call it whatever you want to do. So if I click on this, I can change its name to a 9680 instead of 2. I would backspace the 2 and call it a 3 and say okay. And I have now created a brand new product from one that existed before. This part of the program is extremely powerful and extremely easy to use. One word of caution: when we have a tendency when we're using SoftPlan to glance. New users, even users who've been using it for a while, you should be reading in detail what you can do. I can change it in plan view. I can offset it. I can rake it. I can set the bottom of the wall. I can center it. I could add a transom. I can re-add it back in with a new product code. I can change the way it's displayed. I can change the way it's trimmed. I can set up the way that I can go to SoftList and include or exclude it. I can go into the miscellaneous function and add a screen, make it tempered glass, make it egress, put cladding around it. I can go into a window treatment and add coverings and rods and brackets. There's a tremendous amount of power in this editing system that's built in, especially with openings. But there's a tendency on our part when we see it, we ignore all these tabs, and this is where the power is. Okay, so I'm going to come down. It's automatically centered. I'm going to say okay to that. I'm going to zoom back out. And in this particular case, I've got a real problem over here with block work. Yeah, I sure do. And so I go in and I'm going to say, well, let's see if we can get it close to block work. And I'm going to make that 2 feet. And then that's going to give me 2.0 on either side. And I've solved the problem. No block cutting. Lay them up. Done deal. So I'll zoom out and then I'll take you back to the 3D model. And here you go. Here we are in 3D. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, not sure I like that door. So I'm going to go back and in edit mode, I'm going to click on that door. And I'm going to say, I really wanted a 2-panel. So I'm doing this now in 3D, and this is just to illustrate what BIM can do. So I'm going to slide down, and I'm going to find me a 7280 Colonial A right there. That's what I really wanted. So I'm going to say, okay. And it's changed. And there it is. And I'm going to edit this door yet again. I just right-key clicked on that. I'm going to go to display, and what I want to do in this particular case is I'm going to say open it in the model. And I've just opened the doors. Okay, but more importantly, if I take you back to the main floor plan, it's there. That's what BIM does. I can work in any of these different views and it automatically refreshes all of the other data, including the bill of materials, which I have not run yet. I'm going to quickly strengthen this up so it makes sense from a standpoint of block work. So this is going to become 8 feet to this position over here. And yes, if I had done this right, I should have added the walls inside first, but we're in a hurry here, so let me do it the improper way. Now, there is going to be some block cutting here. Can't be helped. The rough openings just force that. Just can't be helped. So I'm going to go to 12 feet on this. I'm going to slide down here. I'm going to make that 9 feet 4. Again, I'm trying to maintain those codes if I can. That's going to have to stay. We'll go to 8. Let's go to 6'8" on this one. Push that, and then the gap between them. Let's go to 6'8" yet again, and we'll push that. And then I'm going to center this door. So I'll edit this door, and I'll tell it to center itself. And it says, well, how? Along the outside, along the inside? If you say along the outside, we're going to be in great shape. So I'm going to say, okay. If I had partitions in here and I said center it along the inside, it looks left and looks right to see where the partitions are. So that's why it's asking you that question. And I'm going to leave that the way it sits. And this I'm going to change, and I'm going to make this 8 feet. Okay, so that's fine. Then I'm going to come over here. I'm going to make this 10 feet. And that's fine. And I'm going to make this, I don't know, let's go 5 feet 4. Push that down. Okay, so now I go back to my model and everything is where I expect it to be. And then we're going to make one more change. We're building in Florida. And when you build in Florida, we got a problem. And that problem is we have to use filled cells, downpours, whatever you want to call them. It's required by code. And I've supplied them in our Florida users. So when we go to draw, we're going to go into the symbol library for a Florida builder, and we're going to slide down to the structural component, and we're going to find filled cells. And they're in here in 8-foot increments, 9'4", 10, 10'8", 11'4", and 12. And you're going to see later how placing a cell automatically triggers a cell count, a rebar count, an inspection plate count, a dowel count, and a concrete consumption count in terms of how much concrete is required to fill those cells up, just by placing a single item on that screen. So I'm going to say, okay, 8 feet works for me. So I'm going to slide in real close, and I'm going to place that first fill cell right there. Well, I was going to. There it is. Okay. Now, after that, I don't do a whole lot of placement after that. What I do is I use the block move command or the move command, and you can come in and you can just say, okay, I want to take and use copy a block, and I'll grab that and I'll drag it this way, and I'm watching my tape measure right there, and I'm going to get it close to 4 feet. I'm going to take it out to like that and say, okay, close enough. And I'm going to say, okay, how many of these do you want? I don't know, give me 10. All right, is that going to be enough? I have no idea. I'm just going to get it done. All right, so at that point, I've got pretty good setup here. So what I want to do now is, because of the code, I have to use the move block function, and I'm going to grab this. I'm going to zoom you in tight. Don't get dizzy. I'm going to slide that. It has to be on either side of the opening. Okay, like that. All right, and then I might just drag this to here. And normally these would be dimensioned. We'd have to make a copy as well to make sure that we don't have any gaps, and then we'll put them in. These are the kind of things that kind of slow down your design work in a Florida environment, but that's the way life is in the fast lane. So let's move this over here, and let's put this in here, and let's do a few more copies here. So we'll go to move copy a block. We'll grab this, drag it out, watching my tape up there to about 4 feet or so, like that. And I'm going to ask for 3 of these. We're going to run off the screen, but that's okay. And say okay to that. And then this last one, I'm going to move back into the corner. Now, you could spend the time, I'm not going to, but you could spend the time and do this all the way around the building, dimensioning them and putting them in the right place. I just want to show you that they exist. They're here. They work. And when we get into the bill of materials takeoff report, you'll see it. Now, I'm going to take you back to the 3D model, and we're looking at the back side of that house. Here we are in 2D, and here we are in 3D. So we're looking at that back corner. And what I'm going to show you here is where those filled cells are. How do I see them now? Well, you really can't. If you look across this, you'll see some dots and specks, but it really doesn't help you. Let me back you up a bit. So let's do it this way. Let's go to the options command, and let's go to the material. I would like to tech, if they're listening, to call that material visibilities, but they don't listen. So to me anyway. So they'll listen to Jim, but they don't listen to me. So let's go into the wall function and say, okay, for walls, don't show me any block, don't show me any block, don't show me any drywall, don't show me any furring strip, don't show me any rigid insulation, don't show me any stucco. And I say okay to that. They're the standing filled cells right where they're supposed to be. Okay, so that's proof that the cells exist. That's proving that they're doing what they're supposed to do. I've never had to submit a document like this to the building department to prove it, but if you need to, in rare cases you may, that's how you could prove it that they are there. Okay, let's turn these back on. Say okay, everything's back to normal. Pow, pow, pow. Good, we're back here. All right, so this is our first floor. Now what I want to do is I'm going to use this first floor as a template for the second floor. So I'm just simply going to go in right now, simply say File, Save, All. And if you're not doing that on a regular basis, you're making a mistake. We automatically back up your work every 3 or 4 minutes. I understand that, but that's going to be taking place in a recovery folder. You should be doing it yourself with a Control S on a regular basis. I've just gotten into the habit of doing Control S like every 4 or 5 minutes, and it pays huge dividends. All right, so what I'm going to do now that that's been saved, and there's always an asterisk that appears after the name if it hasn't been saved recently, and also the little icon up here in the corner will turn red as well if it hasn't been saved. Unfortunately, I'm colorblind, so whether it's red or blue, I couldn't tell the difference. So I depend on that little asterisk. All right, so let's go into the next step, and what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to say File. I've lit up the main floor, so it's File, Save As. Try that again. I think I skipped it. File, Save As. And I'm going to call this not main floor, but second floor. So what I'm showing you here is I don't draw second floors. I generate them. So I'm saving it as a second floor. And you're seeing it now called second floor. But over on your navigation toolbar, you're seeing main floor and you're seeing second floor. We'll get to that in a minute. So right now, what I want to do is I want to come in here and I want to start making the changes that are going to be required. So the first change that I want to make is I want to get rid of these filled cells. So I just use block erase real quick. You could use the symbol erase function, but this to me is just faster to go in and do it this way. And block erase is a very powerful tool because block erase simply says if it isn't enclosed in the block, it's not going to go away. Okay, so that's done. So those filled cells are gone. Next thing, logically, that probably shouldn't be a slider unless I plan on putting a second floor deck out here. If you don't, you're going to have all kinds of problems with somebody stepping down through here and crashing down onto the first floor, and then there's lawsuits, and we don't want that. So let me show you a concept called duplicate. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to go into my edit command, and there's a function called duplicate. So I'm going to come down here and click on this double mult sh window and say OK. And then I'm going to slide up here and click on this, and I've taken that sliding door and I've turned it into the same window that you had in the front. Now the next step is to go in and change these wall types out. So I'm going to go in to that. I'm going to use the edit function for this. Again, the power of the program is editing, editing, editing. And I'm going to go in and say change walls. So it scans and it says, and it lights them all up, and it says, well, all I've got here is 8-inch block stucco, insulation, furring strips, and drywall. Yeah. So, okay, change it. Change it into what? Here's your list. Change it into 2x4 and stucco. Okay, now we've presented a problem to the computer. We presented a problem to the program, and the problem is this. It says, okay, you want to take these 8-inch block walls and you want to turn them into 2x4 walls. Right. How do I align them so I don't have to redimension this thing? Easily. Take the outermost face of the outermost load-bearing material of the block walls that I started with, and then when you bring in those 2x4 walls, align them to their outermost load-bearing material. So they slide right into the same spot. Okay, look, do I have to redimension this drawing? No. Do I have 2x4 walls? Yes. Should I go back and change these windows to stick frame type windows? Yes, I'm not going to, but that would be the process. So now I have a 2-story dwelling that's on the second floor is made out of stick. And the first floor, which isn't opened yet, I closed it, so I'm going to now do 2 things. First of all, I'm going to save the second floor, and now I'm going to double click on main floor. So there's the main floor. Here's the second floor. You want to make life easy? I'm just a little bit retarded like this. So I'm going to take this main floor and I'm going to drag it over here because I like to go bottom floor, next floor, and then modeling. So main floor here, second floor here, 3D textured model. Right. Now look, here is the second floor. I'm going to scoot this up so you can see it. Here's the model. The second floor isn't included in the model yet. The old way of doing things would be to go to model, go to assemble the floors and say, okay, take that second floor and add it. that takes too long. That takes 8 seconds. I'd rather just click on this and drag it to the model and say I've done it already. That's what drag and drop does for you. So now you have the second floor already on the main floor. Well, what does it look like? So I'm going to take you into the 3D model, and there are the 2 floors. Well, now I see something else that's wrong. I've got a monolithic slab sitting between the 2 floors. That wasn't too smart. No, it wasn't. So we're going to go back and we're going to put this into floor system mode, and we're going to go in and we're going to erase this slab. It's gone. Now that we're in floor system mode, we're going to go to the draw command and we're going to come down to check the floor system options for the second floor. And I'm going to be using a joist system, 16 inches deep, 3.5 inches wide, 24 on center, with a ring joist, box joist, skirt joist, they call it different names in different parts of the state, with a flange, with webbing, and then it's going to be a floor truss. And I am not going to be using a pressure treated plate because in Florida, floor trusses have on the bottoms of their surfaces, they have a stainless steel strip. So when it sits down onto the concrete block, you don't have to worry about whether or not it's going to rot because that protects it for that. Give me 1 second. Okay, I'm back. So that's what I'm going to be using. So I say okay to that. Now, this isn't complicated. So what I want to do right now is this. Let me zoom it up so you can see it. I'm going to go to draw. I'm going to go to a floor system. I want the joist. I want the ring, rim, skirt, joist. I don't want a sill plate, but I do want a subfloor. And I would like to have it automatically, please. So I click auto trace and I click. Yeah, that's good, and it's labeling everything the way it's supposed to, but the problem is it's probably running the wrong way. I'd rather have the joist run up and down. Well, it's running this way because the program decided that was the most efficient way to do things. And that's what that little arrow is for right there. It's telling me where these joists started to be transmitted from. I'm going to go to this J marker, which indicates joist, and I'm going to edit that joist and click on it, and I'm going to tell it it's the reference edge. Watch what happens. The joist is all reverse. And now we have the joist in the right place. So I do a quick cleanup. Cleanup's important. And then I'm going to take you back to the 3D model and look what happened. And now look what happened. So you can see all the subfloor assembly right there. And if you come underneath, you can see that I've got the 2-story dwelling. And you come underneath, I got my monolithic slab. Everything is lined up, no holes, no gaps, no problems. Everything is ready to go. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to ask the 3D model to extract the framing. This is important because SoftPlan, in order to speed up the process, decides that if something is covered up, why extract it? Why make it available in 3D? That's what speeds up the 3D modeling process. And that's why you look at this wall right here. If I tip it over, you don't see any studs in here. They're just hollow. They're hollow because the program hasn't extracted that data yet. I'm going to force it. So I say extraction options. Okay. Turn it on. What do you want? I want framing. What kind? Well, ceiling, floors, roofs, walls. I want it all. Okay. So when I do that, it happens almost instantaneously. Now you do see the lumber. But what I really want to show you is I'm going to walk you inside this building. There'll be a loud crash as we break through the bottom. There it is. There we are down on the first floor, and now I'm looking at all of the trusses, the web truss systems that I put in, and if I look you sideways over here, you can see them. If I come back over on this side, you can see them. They're everywhere they're supposed to be, and they're automatically in place. They're automatically calculated, and when we do our bill of materials later, you're going to see that we actually count those as well. So now that I'm out, let's tip this down just a little bit, and we're ready to go. Okay, the other thing we can do, and I'll do it quickly because I know we're running short here, we can go to options and we can go back into that material visibility again. And this is really kind of fun if you want to show off a little bit. You can go in and say, okay, no block, that's the knockout block, no drywall, no furring, no plates. Actually, I do want plates. Slide down, plate A, plate B, rigid insulation, no thank you. Sheathing, no thank you. Stucco, no thank you. Studs, okay, watch. That's how that whole building frames out. Not too bad. And if you really want to do it right, if you go to options for material, you can actually go in and say for a structural component, you really ought to be turning off the subfloor. Okay, so the subfloor is off and now you're seeing the entire structure. This, what you're looking at, is what makes this program powerful, unique, and easy when it comes to calculating bill of materials takeoff reports, and when it comes to presentation views like this, and when it comes to object assembly. If you know how to build This has been my mantra for years. If you know how to build, you're already halfway home when it comes to learning how to use this program. And while I'm here, by the way, I can see that I've got a double door going out and causing a real serious problem if I don't put a deck out there. So I'm just going to eliminate the deck process by going into my edit. Remember duplicate? There's duplicate. Click on that window. Thank you. Click on that door. Thank you. Done. Notice the headers are in place already. Job's finished. Okay, let's go back to options. Let's go to material. Let's go back into walls. Let's say, okay, turn on your blocks, turn on your block, turn on your drywall. I don't care about that. Insulation, okay, fine. Lath, wrapping, you'll need to see that later when we do build materials takeoff. Rigid, sure. Sheathing, yep. Stucco, okay, done. And we are back to this. And then structurally, we need to go to options for our material and say, okay, for the structure, turn on the subfloor. Okay, done. All right, there. Good. Let's go back into the main floor. That's set up. Second floor is finished. Everything is in place. Now, real quick, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put a set of stairs in here. And then I'm going to make those stairs reach automatically for the second floor. Automatically. Here's the stipulation for new users. If you intend to put a set of stairs into your drawings, you must have already defined both floors, number one. Number two, they have to be modeled together. They are. Number three, each of the floors that you're building, first floor, second floor, has to have some sort of floor structural system under them. These do. The first floor has a monolithic slab. The second floor has joist systems. I've met the criteria. If I've done this right, then I ought to be able to put a set of stairs in here and let the stairs figure out where they're supposed to go. Shouldn't be that hard. Okay, fair enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to draw, going to go to stair. I'll make it easy. We'll take a straight stair. We'll just go down in here to straight. And I want one that's 42 inches wide. I like the room. Say okay. And then I'm just going to pop it any old place in here. I'm just going to set it down in here. Now watch what happens. I'm going to back up just a bit. Watch what happens when I click. There. All right, so let's edit those stairs. And those stairs now have gone up 9 foot 5 7/8 inches. Well, if those walls on the outside are 8 feet, and I've got 16 inches of, actually they're 8 feet 1 1/8, and if I've got 16 inches of joist and I've got 3/4 inch of subfloor, those stairs automatically figured out how they're supposed to grow up. They got it. They figured it out. It's done. Okay, so now that that's in place, I've got to be able to do something else. The next thing I want to do here is I want to put a ceiling system in. So I'm going to go from drawing mode to ceiling mode. And the nice part about this is I don't have any rooms to worry about. So I'm just going to use one big, massive, square covered area for ceiling. So I'm going to go to draw. And I'm going to go into not a ceiling system, but just plain vanilla ceilings. And I'm going to say auto trace. I'm going to click. And now I've got ceiling board in there. And then I'm going to do a quick cleanup. I always clean up when I add new objects. So come out of ceiling mode, go to drawing mode. I'm going to file, save. In fact, I'm going to save all. Okay, so that's done. Next process. I'm going to take you back up to the second floor because I've got to cut a stairwell for those stairs. Fair enough. So how do I do that? Well, what I want to do now is I want to go to draw and I want to go in and I want to do an overlay. And I want to overlay the main floor. That's what it's suggesting. So I say, okay. And look, lo and behold, look what I found. The stairs down below. All right, so what do I do now? I go to draw and I want to draw a stair headroom clearance hole. I choose that, I click. I'm finished. The program cut the hole. It's at the correct location. It added all of the sister joists in the framing, and I'm going to take in even tighter. It also added all of the hangers. I didn't have to do a thing, just click and go. If those walls had been 9'4", those stairs would have reached the higher distance, and the stair room head clearance hole still would be 6'10" before it gets drywall. Which brings me to my next point. We're going to go to edit. We're going to click on that hole, and we're going to tell it to add drywall. Done. Okay. Finished. So then I zoom back, and then I'm going to put this drawing back into, in this case, drawing mode. I'm going to take you back to the 3D model, and there you can see the stairwell, you can see the stairs, and you can see the drywall that was added. Now, normally you would put some walls or something around this because you don't want people killing themselves, but I'm not going to do that. You understand that there's a process that has to be completed. Now, last thing I want to do is I want to come in here and I want to put a roof on this system. So I'm going to go back into the second floor and I'm going to zoom it out And then what I want to do is I want to put this in roof mode. Non-load bearing walls would disappear. And we're now faced with only the load bearing walls with no other data visible. That's all I really care about. So at this point, we're going to come down and we're going to look at our roof options. Every time you change modes, trust me, go back and check the options for the mode you're in. It saves you a lot of heartache down the road. I'm going to use a 6/12 pitch, an 18-inch overhang. I'm going to be using standard plumb cuts on those. I'm not going to add any gutters. I'm not going to add any special profiles. I'll use asphalt shingles. If I do gables, and I will, I'm going to ask for stucco instead of siding. So I'll come down here and ask for stucco A. We'll get to that later. And we might add some vents. Automatically add ridge caps. That's not going to be a problem. Everything else is in good shape. That's what it's going to look like. I'm not going to add an energy heel. I probably should today's day and age with HERS ratings especially. We could change the heel height if we wanted to. And if you wanted to do that, just come over to this heel. And if I wanted to add a 6-inch heel to that, I would simply say that the new heel height is 10.25 inches and I've given you a heel, and that's going to help my energy efficiency. So you're looking at the diagram before you finish. You'll notice that whether it's a rafter or a truss, we're missing that bottom cord for the truss system. But what matters is what's happening with that top cord and what's happening with the heel height. And that's all measured, by the way. The heel height is measured from the outside edge of that top plate all the way straight up to the top edge of that cord of that truss. Okay, so that's in place. So I say okay to that. And then I come in and I'm going to go and I'm going to ask for an automatic roof. Sorry it took so long. So now what do I have? I go to my 3D model and I back up and I've got everything done that I was supposed to do. But the client has asked me to make this a gable end. Now I can do it in two places. I can go to the second floor and I can say, okay, you're supposed to be a gable end. Now, you would talk to that gable end by talking to that reference point, that roof reference point. I used to call them lollipops. And John Pepper, who's a senior programmer in charge of all programming, used to ask me what lollipops had to do with roofing systems. So I changed my jargon. I just call it a roof reference edge. So if I edit this edge and I click on it, I can change that edge. Let me back up and you can see, let me move this aside. That edge is illuminated. So I know that I'm clicking on the edge. If I had clicked here, I would have lit up the entire roof. It's not what I want. Read the dialogues. Roof edge versus roof. Got it. So I go to the roof edge and I say, okay, I'm going to pick a different, I can call it a gable, a Dutch gable, a bullnose, a double hip, a profile, whatever you want to do, an intersect. You can do it here, but I like to do it here. So I'll edit this edge right on it. And I'm going to drag it over so you can see it. I'll drag so you can see it over here. And I'm going to say, okay, you are now a gable end. And presto changeo, it's a gable end. Automatically finished. Nothing to worry about. It's absolutely done the way it's supposed to be. Yeah, well, fine. But while you're here, let's add hip returns. They've already started to appear. Okay, but I'm going to just turn this around a bit, this model around, because I want you to see what I'm doing. I'm going to walk you in. That's the hip return I just added. So I'm going to hit my backspace key for undo, and I'm going to do it again. Watch. Edit, edit item, click. I want gable end. Boom. Okay, now I'm going to come down. I want to add hip returns, and I'm going to kick them out to like 48 inches, like that. And then I'm going to simply change their overhangs. I'm going to kick those out to 18 inches. Watch what happens. They extrude. See that? See how they've extruded out? And then what am I going to do? I'm going to fully hip them. So I'm going to take this dialog out of the way, and I want that bird box to be a hip and return back underneath. So I say, okay, fully hip it. There. That's what I'm after. So I say, okay. And now if I tip it down a bit and walk you in a bit, you can see what I've created right there. Automatically, easily done. Don't even try that in AutoCAD. It'll take you a couple of days. So let's back up, move around, and I'm going to say, okay, from the modeling point of view, this is pretty much finished, and I'm going to take you back to the main floor. I'm going to go to File, Save All. Now, I got about 6 minutes left, so here's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to run a bill of materials for this thing, and I'm going to let you see how that's going to work. So we've also, for Florida users, modified the bill of materials so that it makes sense for a Florida environment. And you'll see some of the things we're gonna get out of that report in about 10 seconds here. But also be advised, the power of the materials takeoff report, in my mind, is probably the most sophisticated and most powerful part of this program. It is on the button if you take the time if you're in a Florida environment, either to use the creations that we've done or to do it yourself, which is a little bit more tedious, but it will work the way you expect it to work. So here we go. We're going to go into the model command, and we're going to go back for material list, and you're going to see not what you normally see out of the box for you guys. You're going to see building materials with no pricing. You're going to see building materials with pricing, and you're going to see building materials by the trades. I'm just going to run this really quickly. Building materials with no pricing. I'm going to click this and watch what happens. Here are the calculations. So before I get into that, what I want to show you though is here's all the warnings down here of all the stuff that I didn't do. So it says the program has determined that a slab on grade foundation is being used. Got that right. Now it's going to process the main floor. Look at this. Warning, you didn't put any insulation on the ceiling. Yeah, right. Okay. Main floor does not have an insulated floor. That's not a big deal. You didn't put any garage walls on this thing. Yeah, you're right. Okay. You didn't. There's no roof found on the main floor. Well, there wasn't because it didn't need it. Yeah, but you don't have any vinyl or any carpet or any hardwood. You didn't put in any interior room finishes. Yeah, you're right about that. You didn't put any baseboard, didn't put any trim. You didn't do an area calculation. Now I'm going to go up and do the rest of the processing. You don't have any ceiling board on the second floor. The roof isn't framed. You don't have any vinyl. You don't have any baseboard. You don't have any trim. There's no filled cells on the second floor. There shouldn't be. And then there's no lumber warning. There's no spruce. There's no pricing. It's telling me everything that I didn't do. And I've always said to John Pepper, yeah, John, but it's all about CYA for you, because what you're saying is it's not wrong. It's that I didn't do it. Fair enough. But what did it do? It asks for a permit. It's looking for an architectural fee, an engineering fee, energy calculations. If you're in Florida, you're going to have to start doing those real soon. And some counties are actually requiring it when you submit your plan for your permit. And you can use ResCheck for that. And if I have time, I'll try to show you that. And then we're going to get down. You have to account for a portalet. You have to account for a dumpster. Then we're getting into the slab. Here's the rebar and the monolithic footing in linear feet, allowing for a 2-foot overlap and waste. Here's your wire mesh. Here's your visqueen. Here's your concrete blocks estimated and your concrete blocks consumed. There's a difference. Why? Because block masons charge you by the solid length of the wall, not how many holes are in it. But that doesn't help you to figure out how many blocks you actually used. Here are the lintel blocks consumed. Here's the total blocks and all consumed, 2,066. You can add those together and you'll see it. And then we come down into the cast lintels, steel supports, cast sills. I didn't draw any of this. I didn't draw any lintels or supports. I didn't draw lintel blocks. I didn't do any of that. Here's the cast sills. I didn't do that. Here's the block mortar. I didn't do that. Here's the block wall labor. Here is the rebar and the tie beam. Here's the filled cells. We have 14 filled cells. Here's the dowels or hooks, they're called. Here are the inspection plates. Here's the concrete. Here's the pump mix to fill it. Here's the filled cell count. There were 14. Let's go down a little bit lower. Here's the soil and termiticide required in Florida. Here's the joist systems and their sizes. Here are the hangers and the double hangers, the sheathing, the screws, 3 cartons. And by the way, SoftPlan calculates 1,500 screws per carton, by the way. I guess that floor's not going anywhere. Here's the top wall plate in 2x4 in linear feet. Here's the bottom wall plate. Then we get down to 2x4 bracing in deadwood supports when you're holding up wall systems, when you're bracing up your truss packages, it's all accounted for. Here's your opening headers. We get down into the flitching, the OSB material. Here's the opening rough sill. Here's the sheathing, 7/16 OSB. How many sheets? Well, there's a waste factor of 4% built into that. Here are the furring strips. Here's the 1x4 furring strips around the opening on the first floor for the block. Here's the gable framing studs. Here's the gable framing plates. Here's the total random length lumber that's used. Those would be jack sills, cut lumber, headers that were lost, things of that nature. Here's the roof decking material and sheets. Here's the gable ladder sets, outriggers you might want to call them. Here's the H-clips to hold it, attic vents, roof vents. We'll talk about that later. We're getting down into fascia cladding, eave starts, valley roofing, roof flashing, soffit materials. Here's the dry-in. You would call it tar paper perhaps, but it's called dry-in in Florida, 30-pound. Here's the shingles in squares, not bundles, but squares. Here's the ridge shingles in linear feet. We get down into the stucco wire lath. Why? Because the second floor used stucco, you got to have wire lath. And then the house wrap, that's the air retarder. Here are the SH windows. We're scrolling down quickly. Here's the colonial door exterior, the double. Here's the sliding glass door triple. Picked it up. I made that, but it picked it up. The leveling and squaring shims, entrance and passage hardware, R13 in the walls upstairs, rigid insulation downstairs, and then we get down into the drywall, ceiling board, drywall, compound screws, tape, corner bead, ceiling texture, that's the knockdown texture. Then we get down into door casings, and then we're looking at the building cleanup, the walkthrough inspections, and so on. That bill of materials takeoff report gets bigger as this design gets more sophisticated, and it's live. It runs with you as you're doing this particular design, okay? So I gave you the jet tour of doing a two-story dwelling, block first, stick second, using automatically rising stairs, finding their floor-to-floor distances, calculating everything that's going to be required, including in a Florida environment, the filled cells, the downpours, and all that stuff. We put a roof on it really quick, and we changed one end to a gable end, and we took out and ran a bill of materials takeoff report. While I'm here, this bill of materials takeoff report can in fact be exported out. We can export this bill of materials out to all of these different accounting packages and software packages. You can send it out to something like a BIM pipeline, or you can send it out as an ASCII field to Excel or to Works, BuildSoft, Builder's Trend, Timberline, any of these packages, including QuickBooks, Estimate, purchase orders, and Excel workbooks, which is one we use a lot. So that report is fully executable as well. So I think I burned my 60 minutes almost to the second. I don't know if you're still there, Jim, but that's where I am.
Yeah, David, that's an hour and a ton of information in there. So thank you very much.
Sure.
Folks, we've been recording this, so I will get the audio and video from David, and we will get this uploaded early next week so